Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we're going to work on an earlier version of the Shimano Calcutta. This is the Calcutta 200. It's the silver side-plated edition. This one has a narrow frame. Looks like it's in for basic service. There's a lot of old greases and dirt and the like that have accumulated in the channel. We'll take care of that as part of this service. We're going to show you how to take this reel apart, how to service it, how to keep it fishing for a long time to come. And we're going to do that by removing the exterior pieces and parts first. So to do that, we're going to start by removing the nut cap and then the nut and work our way down. While I'm doing that, if you like the art of reel repair, if you like to see how reels are serviced, how to keep them fishing, and learn a little bit about the mechanics behind the reel repair, then I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. That'll let you know when I'm posting, and well, you can see if that's a reel that you would like to learn more about. I work on all kinds of fishing reels. Today it's going to be a round bait caster. Tomorrow it might be a low profile bait caster, and after that it may be, well, an ocean trolling reel. I just never know what kind of is going to show up in the shop. I'm going to use a little bit of fine steel wool here. Just take some of the old greases and oils off. And underneath the handle, between the handle and the star adjuster, there is a tension washer. So please make sure that you note that. When you take your pieces and parts off, I like to put them into a parts tray. But make sure, however you do this, you account for the parts that come off. You learn the sequence of them, and you keep a track of what you're doing so that when it comes time for reassembly, well, you remember or have something to remind you of what it is that you do. One of the best things to do, in my opinion, is to use a camera, take some pictures, and just do it at critical joints, and well, that'll always help you to recall or see what your mind may have forgotten. Underneath the star adjuster, other than a lot of grease, there is a flat washer. So make sure you clean that channel out. Old grease harbors a lot of dirt and the like, and well, it's always good to clean that up. After that flat washer, there's two washers that are concave, and those are tension washers that give you a little variability in how the drag performs, so make sure that you take them off. Well, we've taken off the exterior parts now. It's time to remove the side plate. There are two thumb screws. I guess the first piece needs a little bit of attention here in terms of using your fingers to do it. You have to break the seal, and that's the screwdriver. And you should be able to remove the side plate at this point. Underneath the side plate, you can see that this is a line or a gear side driven line guide. You can see how it moves now. And what that means is when you disconnect your gear during casting, this line guide is not going to move. So when you go to cast, you always want the line guide positioned in the center of the line bar. That way it's the least distance traveled for a line coming off the spool. It's the most effective for improving spool casting distance. We should be able to remove the spool now. For whatever reason, it seems a little stuck. There you go. And you'll find that there is a bearing on the back side of this plate. You do not need to remove that side plate unless you've got some kind of issue going on back there. If you were to remove it, there is a Phillips head screw here and here that need to come out in order to do that. While I have the case opened, I'm going to spray that so that we can clean up that little grease and grime. I'm just using a basic cleaner here. This is a Purple Power spray. It's good for removing grime. If you're allergic to lye, well, don't use this product. It does contain lye, and you don't want to go ahead and get yourself all in a rash or something because of it. It is very effective, however, and you'll see how you just kind of mop it right off once you spray that down. So You'll also notice I'm wearing a protective glove. I'm not allergic to lye, but I don't like that stuff on my hands if I can avoid it, so doing my best to avoid it. I'm also using a cotton swab, and that cleans this stuff up pretty good, pretty quickly. When you are working on servicing a reel, take the extra time to do the cleaning. I know it might seem just tiresome or why bother, but it will help you in the end. Just a little bit more. It's kind of stuck here, so I'll just do a reapplication of that. And we'll just kind of finish that off there. This, if you use the accumulated grease and the like as an indication of when the reel was last serviced, it's probably been a little while. This one was sent in by Zach, and we're trying to get this one back out there for him. Okay, that case is done well. I'm going to take the moment now to advance this line guide to the side so that I can service the line guide assembly. The line guide assembly is held in with a plastic cap. You need to be careful with this cap. This cap has points on it. I already noticed that there's a broken point or two here, and that comes with over tightening. It's missing right here. That comes from over tightening the cap, so just be careful as you're working that so that you don't have that issue. When the cap is out, you should be able to just tap down gently and the pole should come out. I heard it. You want to make sure that the shoulders on the pole are clean. That's the two flat spots below. And that the points are equal. In this case, they are. And I also noticed there was a little washer that came out as well. That little washer seats on the back of the pole, the bottom. So when you go to reinstall, make sure that you're not missing that. I use a micro pliers to reinstall that. My fingers are just too big to try and get it into that cavity there. So it goes in through there, push down, and then what you want to do is you want to hold your finger with pressure on the back of the pawl and turn the line guide until that pawl gets seated flush with the bottom of the carrier. Now I put some oil inside that. I didn't mention it. I put some oil inside that little cavity. Now I need to get that little washer up. That's always kind of fun, right? Well, while I'm doing this, I want to encourage you to ask questions if you have any about reel repair, maybe about this reel, maybe about the reel that you're working on. Doesn't matter. I do try to use this channel for education, and if you have a question, there's no better way to learn than to ask the question. All right, we've centered that washer over the carrier, and we're going to go ahead and reinstall the plastic cap. Again, please be very careful as you are bringing this down. Snug it up, but don't over tighten it. If you over tighten it, chances are you're going to break that points on the cap, and over time you can pretty much survive with one, but the more that are missing, the more difficult it will become on operation. Let's get this one little piece here, just doesn't want to clean up. It looks like it may be scarred. Okay, and we'll just put a little drop of oil on that. That completes the service of the non-gear side of this reel. It's working smoothly. I'm just going to go, I see one more little piece here. For whatever reason, that grease is shellacked. And well, you can't clean it all up if it's shellacked or moved. Has moved on to embedding itself in the case. All right, decent enough. There are no bearings on the spool. The bearings are on the side cases. There is a bushing here. You can oil it. It's not going to have any negative effect on it. And this is your brakes for your reel. That's probably why I had a difficult time bringing it out. All of the brakes are set out. You want to make sure as you go to reinstall that those brakes fit inside the rim of the race on the back side of this. You can see the indentation here. That's a race. Push it in. That seems to work the way it should. And you'll notice when you turn the spool on this one, the line guide's not turning. So that's what we were talking about with casting. You want to make sure that you center that bar when your line guide is driven by the by the gear side piece. All right, the only thing I need to do on this one is a little bit of grease so that when we go to the pinion gear, that rides smoothly inside. There's 2 screws that hold the side plate and the gear plate on, going there next. I'm going to remove these. They're very small screws, so be careful. Have a safety net underneath, so that if they drop, they don't go far. Just let that drop out on the table. We got one over here. And the versions of these Calcuttas, there's all kinds of versions. There's versions that have the numbers. Those indicate the spool width. So 100, 200, 400, for example. And then there's A and B versions. The A, of course, doesn't have a version to it. The B does. That's the second version. You're going to find that internally there's a little bit of a difference. But if you're viewing this one and you have a different version, the process and procedures I'm using on this one are the same. You want to clean out your anti-reverse bearing, but you do not want to oil it. That's friction driven. And I just use a cotton swab to get rid of any greases that are in there. This is your anti-reverse collar. It came off in the anti-reverse. The important thing to note with this, there's 2 sides. One side has those 2 extensions. One side is flat. The extensions are going to go into the slot on your main gear. I like to remove the yoke springs and put those into my parts tray at this time, because this gear is usually always difficult to get off. I don't know why. It's kind of got a press to it, and it just takes a moment to do that. I'm going to remove that top washer. Everything seems to bind with the way it gets pressed down on this one. It's just something I've noticed. I've never had an easy time getting this main gear off. But if I take that off, there's a single drag washer underneath. And you basically just need to pull up evenly to get it off. Sometimes in a little assist, go ahead and take a screwdriver and just, there you go. Just put a little pressure from the underneath side. And this is your drag assembly and your post. I don't believe there's a bearing under there. I'm looking, it's a bushing, so you do not need to remove the gear shaft. You can oil both sides of this. If you did need to remove the gear shaft, there is a E-clip there, but just get some oil onto the drive. And you can see this is the drive that's going to drive the line guide. We have our pinion gear assembly. Now this one's hard to mess up. There's only one way you can basically put it on, because you have different sizes or lengths to the yoke. One of the things you do want to notice is that the pinion gear has a slot that faces into the spool, and there's a little bit of dirt on here, so make sure that you clean the dirt out. The dirt is the old grease. Okay, we've got that done. Inspect the teeth. This one's dry, so this one needs some new grease. The teeth look like they're in good condition. Grease it up, grease where it's going to grab in the yoke. And make sure that the slot faces towards the spool for reinstall. I like to take penetrating oil and just kind of coat the trip mechanism. Just clean it up a little bit. You don't need to do a complete disassembly here, but this is a good place to take a picture if you have to. If this piece is broken, for example, or there's a lot of grease and dirt that you want to clean underneath, make sure you notice that the spring has a tag end that goes into the top here and around the post, that the other spring is held on by a little clip, and underneath that there's one that sits into the dog assembly. And if you come over to the back here and you push down on this, you will see how the trip lever comes in. That gives you an opportunity to clean underneath if there is an issue there. And then when you have this click mechanism, we'll put that click mechanism back on now. This has got a square. There's also, let's see if we can't get that where the trip mechanism is engaged there. There we go. The trip mechanism is going to engage. It's going to land in the cavities between these like it is now. And when you turn this, it's going to push everything back up. Of course, I didn't set the piece right. Let's try that again for illustration purposes. Okay, I'm going to hold my hand on here now and show you that it will push everything back up. That's your free spool release. On top of that piece goes a washer. And then I'm going to put this yoke assembly back in. We're going to remove this drag washer. This is a composite washer. I want to clean the dirt out from the cavity underneath. Just old greases. And this one is a porous washer, so I'm going to put a little bit of grease on it. I'm going to use Cal's Universal Drag Grease for that. I'm going to get a nice coating on there. I'm going to work it in with my fingers, and I'm going to wipe off the excess. Once I do that, we'll reinsert that into the main gear. This one needs service because, well, there's no greases on it. So we've cleaned out whatever was remaining. Most of it, I would say, has evaporated. And it's just time for a good cleaning and a reinstall. Having done that, we can reinstall this on top of the post. Merge it with the pinion gear on the yoke. And, well, we're pretty much set there now. You can spin it to make sure everything's driving, which it is. And then we have the top washer. That has the two slots for the corresponding studs on the AR. You want to make sure that they are in there and that you're flush on the base of the washer. We've cleaned the inside of the case. Not sure if that's a bearing up top there. It may be, and this the spool is going to sit, so go ahead and put some oil on that. Take a moment to wipe off any dirt that may have accumulated on the exterior of this. Then just center your anti-reverse. Center these 2 points. They're going to go onto the carrier in that yoke. And that's reinstalling the side case. Go find, oops, that was an oops. I messed up. There's 2 yoke springs. That's the value of my parts tray. When I look in my parts tray, I see parts that may need to be installed or may have been missed during the installation. So we'll do this again. Doing it again, you got to take that sleeve off the clutch. Again, you need to make sure that it is flat to the main gear. If you don't, it may have popped off that ride and may be installed incorrectly. You know, I felt something when I put that on. Just said the tension wasn't quite right on the side case. Those springs should have a little bit of tension there. This didn't have that, and I guess that was kind of an alert to me that says something's missing. And just as I went for the case screws, I saw that. Well, these are always painful for me, these little small screws. I'm going to use a little bit of grease, see if I can't hold that slot there If not, I'll change over to a micro driver. I think that's probably the best attempt here. I have a lot of tools in my shop, as you might imagine. One of the things that I like are these micro screwdrivers. They give you a better grip on the screws. And when I run into trouble with Phillips head screws, that's a good thing for me to do. There you go, we got one started and one to go. We'll just load this back up. We'll see how we did and get this reel back to Zach so he can go do some fishing. Overall, the reel is in good condition. I think this reel's been out there for about 15-20 years now. I don't know the exact timing. It's not a new reel. Shimano switched over a lot of theirs to different models. I guess you can't sell new reels if you just have old reels that are doing well. Alright, that's done. Let's go grab our star adjuster next. These have the 2 tension washers. They're curved. I put the curve up on the first one and down on the second one. That kind of gives you max flexibility or variability. Then the flat washer goes on top. Then we can set our star adjuster. So most of these reels are the B series. They're the chromed series. They're not the chrome series. They're the gold series of it. There's a tension washer that goes between the star adjuster and the handle. We'll put that on, and then I'm going to use the handle as a wrench to allow me to turn down the star adjuster. Next up would be the handle nut. Make sure when you're putting this handle nut on that it threads nice and easily and square. It's easy to cross strip this one, and if you cross strip it, you're going to have a problem. The handle will not be parallel or perpendicular, and you may strip the threads. Alright, when you put that handle nut on, let's get that in. You need to make sure that your cap lines up. It does, but I wanted to show you that we are perfectly aligned there. The flat side is perpendicular to the hole in the handle, usually makes it line up perfectly. Now we'll tighten that down. We've already greased the shaft of the spool. And put a little bit of oil onto the drive gear. And while we attach here, let's just go over what we did. We've taken the reel off completely. We've serviced the back end of the reel, which was the bearing, the line guide assembly, which is the pawl and the worm gear. Then we came over to the gear side, took everything apart, and made sure that the drag washers were okay and the like. When you go to reinstall the side plate now, pull down on that trip lever. Get it out of the way so that you don't trap it. When you go to install the reel, make sure that your trip lever thumb bar is up. You can put a little bit of oil on that if you like. That'll clear the way for you to go ahead and merge your case. When you install the case, make sure you have a nice tight seam before you start tightening down the screws. Remember, we have the trip lever on right now, so when we go to turn that handle, it should pop the button back up. And we will see. I tighten it down as much by hand. Let's pop that button now. There you go, that's returned. Let's use our screwdriver to make the final tightening here. Just a quarter turn. You don't have to over tighten. And let's give it a test now. So we want to go to free spool, turn. Remember, your line guide's not going to turn because you've disengaged that. Spool is turning nicely. If you want to adjust the tension, make it freer or tighter, use the spool adjuster. Let's crank this, pop the button back. Line guide should be going now. It goes nicely. Tighten down on your drag. Hold your internal to test drag is working properly. So this reel is completely serviced. That's it. That's your Calcutta 200 with the silver case. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope you've learned something from it. If you did, again, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And if you are a subscriber, thank you for keeping this channel vibrant. To everybody who's a first responder, essential personnel, or police, or fire, or rescue, thank you for everything it is that you've done and continue to do with your career choices. We appreciate everything it is that you do. To everyone, please stay safe, stay well, stay fishing. Have a great time on the water. Keep your tackle in tip-top condition and it won't fail when the bite is on. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day.